Good afternoon, everyone. I am delighted to be joining you this afternoon to talk about the customer experience. Coming out of COVID, coming out of all these lockdowns, we've realized just how important experiences are throughout all the different points in our lives. So be it healthcare, be it hospitality, tourism as a guest going around, or even within the retail industry and as product makers, even with the products we sell. So my name is Melissa Moore, the retail advisor. I have over 20 years experience working with national and international brands and retailers all over Ireland and the UK, from big box retail to high-end luxury goods. I have sold and worked with it all. So since starting up the retail advisor several years ago, I now work as a retail consultant, working with independent retail stores up and down the country, and also with makers and creators. And I'm very proud to be a mentor and a trainer with the DCCI. So I do work as a trainer across sales and customer experience. And I also work as a mentor, both in the retail sector and, as I said, with makers and creators. I'm very proud and very passionate about Irish craft and Irish design. So I'm hoping this afternoon that I can take you through a few points as to how you can boost the customer experience in your business. And there's probably no better time of the year than as we work our way towards Christmas to achieve this and really show the consumer that you're putting them at the center of everything you do. So to kick us off then this afternoon, I'm going to look at three specific areas. Your ideal customer. And some of you watching this might think that you know exactly who this person is. But when you do, it's about how you put them at the core of all your messaging, of your product design, and also how you sell to them. We'll look at the customer journey, both in person and online. So that's all those pinch points, all those points of contact that you have with that consumer from before they buy from you, during the sales process, and even after that, when you keep them coming back. Then we'll look at how you can use customer experience to stand out in such a competitive marketplace. And it's getting more and more difficult out there to cut through the noise, to reach your customer, and even to reach new customers. So we'll look at the ways that you can use customer experience to be competitive, to stand out from the crowd. So to give us a bit of perspective, what do we know right now? Well, customer experience is defined how a customer feels at every single interaction with a company, with your brand. It's the journey that they're on. So it's all those tiny little points, whether that's there on your social media, on your Instagram, they're flicking through a magazine and they see you. It's them on your website, or it could be them coming to your retail store or your studio. It's all those tiny little interactions. However, customer service, which is probably a phrase we're more used to, customer service starts when this customer experience fails, because it tends to be the advice or the assistance given. Now, for me, when I look back, when someone says customer service, I think of that desk at the back of Dunnes stores where you go to complain or you bring something back. That sort of service is no longer good enough. We need to be doing absolutely everything we can to enhance the customer experience so that they don't need to come back and bring something back or to complain. But what's really interesting to note is that 67% of consumers say they would pay more for a good experience. People are willing to pay a premium when they're looked after, when they're seen and heard and understood. Customer experience, when it's really delivered with excellence, will add to your bottom line. And that's probably one of the key takeaways from today. This isn't the fluffy, nice to do stuff. This is something that really, really will benefit you and your brand. So when we look at your ideal customer, who should be at the core of every single decision you make, about your product, about your brand, about your retail setting. Because without them, you don't have a business. So we need to look and understand, how has the last 20 months changed them? And then can you create an emotional connection? Because if we're looking at their journey, we're looking at how it makes them feel. And if any of these stages aren't right, make them walk away, we need to understand how to bring them back, how to create a true connection with them so that they keep buying from us. So my first key piece of advice is, don't try and be all things to all people. Far too often in the last few months, I'm hearing from makers and retailers that say, well, I sell everything to everyone. Even if they're making a beautiful piece of pottery or a piece of jewelry, your ideal customer can't be absolutely everyone out there. You really, really need to hone it down. So who are they? Give them a name. Where are they living? Or what are they earning? What sort of area do they live in? House do they have? What sort of disposable income do they have? All these things will impact your business and also impact the customer experience you give this ideal customer. What are they interested in? What do they do in the evenings or the weekends after work? What are their goals and their dreams? How can you leverage this to then introduce your product? And then on the opposite side, what are the pain points? What are the things they fear? What are the problems that get in their way? And actually, maybe how can your product solve these issues for them? What are their buying patterns? And what I mean by that is, would they be shopping for your sort of product regularly? Or is it just something coming up to a special occasion, like a birthday or Christmas, that they need you for? But then also, how has COVID changed that buying pattern? Are they now jumping on your website or jumping on social media during their lunch breaks when they're working from home? Or is it that the fact that they no longer pass your store because they're not commuting to work? So figure out the buying patterns and how you can disrupt this. And then finally, the big one. How has COVID impacted in their lives? Again, are they continuing to work from home part of the week? Have they now moved across to the other side of the country because they believe they can work from home all year round? What are the things that have impacted them, and how has that then changed the interaction they might have with your brand? And then my next piece of advice would really to be niche. Start to hone in on who this customer is, and then look at it from a business perspective. How can this customer and this knowledge that you now have impact on your business? So is it the fact that you're buying less raw materials? Or is it that actually you're buying more, you're just buying less often? What's the pattern of trade that your customer expects? And how is it having an impact on the buying of raw materials in your business? How is this customer impacting your planning? Is the run up to Christmas your busiest time of year? Or actually, do you find that it's the run up to the summer months or the run up to Mother's Day? Knowing who this customer is and how they buy will impact the strategic planning you have from the making of your product, for the selling of your product, and even for the marketing in between. It'll also impact the different price points, because if you're selling a product that's far too cheap for your customer, will they start to doubt the quality? Will they doubt that the fact that it's worth buying at all? And likewise, if you've priced your product so far out of reach for your average customer, can they afford it? Will they want to save for months on end to come and buy your product? And then will that discourage them for buying it for others if this is what you're hoping? So getting your prices right for your specific customer is key. And then it also impacts your marketing. So the promotions you run. And remember, it's not about giving away your products at a discounted price, but maybe it's the promotions or the ideas you run, or maybe it's the range launches that you have during the year. Again, they're all going to be impacted around your customer's life. The marketing is probably the really obvious one. So the social media, the newspaper advertising, the radio advertising, whatever it might be, has to match this customer. It has to match the way they live so that you can have a real impact on them. And again, when it's coming to the run up to Christmas, how are you using your marketing to cut through the noise that's out there to reach this customer and to ensure that they keep buying from you and that they keep coming back? And then finally, then it's the social media. So again, it's not about the obvious thing about being on the right platform. It's about the right time of day, and it's about using the right medium. So if you're making in your studio, is that something your customer wants to see? Are you videoing yourself making or packing orders? Is that what they want? Is that how you can truly connect and start this customer journey with you? So if you've been on a webinar with me before over the last year, you will know that I love to give you a few action points to take away, things to go and take and sit down, grab that cup of tea in your notebook and think about how this can impact your business and actually how you can make changes. So my first actions for this afternoon then, define your customer. Really, really think about who they are right now, their demographics, their dreams, their pain points. Figure out who this is and you'll be able to leverage it for your business. And then my second action is the one that most people hate because it's not easy, but actually the data you gather is priceless. The research you can do by actually talking to your customers will truly impact your business. And also it will really impact the customer experience you can deliver because you know what the customer wants. It's not about second guessing them because you'll have real life data from real customers. So I challenge you, if you have an email subscription, to send out a SurveyMonkey link, asking key questions of your customers so you can get some really useful feedback. If you're talking to your customers on the telephone, write down one question a week and then commit to asking each person that calls you that quick question. And again, over time, over a number of weeks, you've started to gather data right from your customer's mouth. And again, if your customers are visiting your studio, if they're visiting your retail store, is there one question per week over the next few weeks that you could all be asking your customer? Gathering this data and this research is vital for improving the satisfaction that your customers feel when they come into contact with you. Next area that I want to look at this afternoon is this customer journey. The customer journey really encapsulates the customer experience. It's everything from before to right there in the moment to after the transaction. And it's really about how you make them feel and how you can connect and engage with them in an authentic way. So it's emotional, it's physical, and it's psychological. When we look at the physical journey, and again, this could be something to do with people coming to your studio. It could be people coming to your retail space. There are key points that I've picked out that you need to look at and you need to understand. And again, there could be areas here that actually you know you could do better on. So it's a great starting point for a conversation. Step one then in the physical journey for the customer journey, it's the search and the awareness. So when they're sitting at home with their slippers on, with a cup of tea, looking for a business, maybe looking for a product, how easy is it to find your brand? How quickly can they search for you? Or what's their awareness like? Are you constantly in the local paper? Are you constantly being talked about? How easy is it to get an idea that you actually exist? Step number two then on the physical customer journey is what happens when they arrive to your store or your studio. How does it look? How does it make them feel? Have you been out there sweeping out the leaves? Does it look warm and welcoming? Is your front door or your glass, your window displays clean? And again, it might not matter so much to you, but does it to your customer? If this gives an air that you know what you're talking about and that you have pride in what you do, then get out there and sweep the path and clean the windows. You want that arrival, that first impression, to be exactly what that customer wants. The third point then is about the greeting. Are you there yourself to greet the customers if they're coming to your studio, or have you left someone else there? And if you have, that's fine. But do they have the same awareness that you have of just how important that initial greet is? Again, it's all about the authentic first impression. This is a key moment in the customer journey. This is when the customer experience really starts to come alive. So the greeting has to be appropriate. And then what about the guidance? How good is your knowledge? This is a key area where actually makers and creators do far better than anyone else. Because as makers, when we touch and feel our product, we know the journey that product's been on. We understand the making experience. And most of you watching are truly passionate about what you do. So the guidance part of the journey should be really easy. But again, if it's not you meeting that customer face to face, if it's someone else, a staff member or a friend, do they speak about your product with your passion? This is something that we need to pass on to the people that are selling our goods. So whether that's the friend who's minding our studio, or whether that's the team members in a retail store that we're wholesaling to, the guidance aspect when it comes to using your product, trying to sell your product, needs to be amazing. It needs to be memorable. And this is where we can truly stand out. So the guidance has to be right. Number 5 then of the physical journey seems so obvious. Payment. It's great. The customer's decided they want to buy from us, but how easy is it? If we don't have a credit card machine in our studio, have we warned the customer? If our cards are down all day, have we told the customer on the front door? Are we going around telling people? Payment should be fluid. It should be really easy. And again, it should just be a seamless part of the customer journey. The final part then is delivery. And again, if we're using a third-party provider, are they the best they can be? Is that seamless and easy for the customer? But also in store or in our studio, are we wrapping this product and handing it over personally in the best possible way? And this isn't necessarily about the bells and the whistles and all the fancy ribbon, because we know consumers are much more conscious now of how well we are sustainably. So is it plastic tape? Are we using all that bubble wrap? Or are we truly being authentic if we say that we are sustainably packaging our products? But just make sure that it's handed over with care and appreciation and gratitude that that customer has decided to buy from you. And the final part of the physical journey is almost an afterthought, because it's that after sales service. How good are we at this? Again, just like the awareness and the search before the purchase, this is a key part of the physical journey, because we need to be ready when things go wrong. So how capable are you of solving a problem, whether it's something that's damaged, whether it's something broken, whether it's the fact that the parcel's gone missing on the way to the customer? How good are you at resolution? And also, as we come up to Christmas and we get busier and busier, how good are we at jumping onto this as soon as it happens, even if it's chaos around us? My kind of challenge to you here is have those resolutions pre-written. Have a go-to place in your office or your studio where if X, Y, and Z go wrong, you know what to do automatically. Because again, the quicker we can deal with customer issues, the more likely that customer is to come back to us and buy again, which is the key to sustainable selling. So a few reminders then. Keep your studio or your retail space clean and tidy. Ensure that everything is priced so that the customer doesn't have to keep asking. Be ready for action with that greeting. Be warm and welcoming. Ensure that everyone who is selling your product is knowledgeable, that they can give guidance. And then finally, be ready with that resolution. I'm hoping nothing goes wrong, but at least you can be sound in the knowledge that if you have a resolution, you'll be ready if something does. Moving on then to the online journey. And so many of you watching this have set up new websites over the last few years, but how good at the customer experience is this online journey? So again, we start in the same place with the search and awareness. How good is it that you pop up when a customer's looking for something in your category? When they land on your site, what do they see? Is your banner message up from 3 or 4 months ago when you were talking about the summer or Mother's Day? And likewise, if I jump onto your website in February, will you still be talking about Christmas? Ensure that landing on your website is as perfect as it can be. Drive the customer to exactly what you want them to see. Don't be driving them to old messages or confusing messages. And then when they order that product or service, how easy is it? How many clicks do they have to go through until they can order from you? The longer we have to press buttons and be guided around a website, the more bored we get, and the more likely we are to click out of your website and go elsewhere. We now have such short attention spans that the quicker we can drop something into a trolley or a cart on a website, and the quicker we can pay, the easier it is for us as consumers. So be very mindful about how many hoops you're making your customer jump through. And again, is payment slick and easy? Have we checked all our links are working? And again, I'd urge you in the run up to Christmas to keep popping in and out of your website. Get someone to check that all these things work seamlessly. And then the interesting point about the online journey. If we're talking about authentic customer experience, if we're talking about an emotional connection, the key point in the whole of the online journey that you can truly connect to your customer comes just after that payment stage. When that automatic email goes out to your customer once they've paid, what does it say? Has it been written automatically by the company that owns your website? Or have you actually sat down to write a deep and meaningful thank you for someone making a purchase from you? Are you grateful that as a small family business that someone's bought from you? Are you delighted to be able to share in the run up to their Christmas? Ensure that that waiting period is filled with an email that truly speaks of your brand values and of who you are. This is how you create a memorable experience. This is how people will continue talking about you and your brand deep into next year. And then finally, again, delivery. Is it easy? Is it seamless? And if it's not, is your after sales service quick and resolution driven? Or is it something you're going to put on the back burner and just try and avoid? So my top tips really for your online journey: ensure there's simple navigation on your website, clear categories, easy to understand titles and collections. And while we're on this, please ensure that if you're driving consumers to your website, that they're not met with loads of out of stock buttons. Over the last few days, I've been on various websites checking on makers and creators and even retailers and what their landing sites are looking like. And already, lots of them are filled within the first few seconds of me scrolling down with the out of stock stickers. That's really disheartening for a consumer. And if you think a consumer is going to continue scrolling or clicking more buttons, they won't. They will simply leave your website and go elsewhere. And research tells us that if a consumer goes to a competition site, they're very unlikely to come back to yours. So make sure that landing page is clear, that the messaging has clarity and meaning, but also that you're showing stock that is available. Hide the stuff that isn't. If you feel that logistically you won't get any more stock in or you can't make any more, hide those pieces. Show the customer what you do have. Really think about leading with your best foot forward and trying to sell what you have in stock. The other parts then of the online journey that we tend to forget is to try and inspire and delight our consumers. Keep them on the website as long as you can by nourishing them with really useful information. So blog posts, maybe about how you make, top tips on how to look after the piece, or tips and ideas about maybe your top 5 gifts for the Christmas season or for Mother's Day. And also, if it's right for your brand, talk about the community events or maybe what's going on within your industry. Give them a reason to stay on your website, even if they're not buying. And then finally, make sure you talk about you and your brand. Include a video of yourself or a picture. I'm always fascinated to hear consumers talk about brands that they don't truly believe are Irish, or processes that are actually done in this country that they feel are being done abroad. The more we can show customers that we do make in this country, that you are a real person and not just a brand, it's key to them buying from you and again to returning. Lee Cockrell wrote The Customer Rules. It is a fascinating book. And if customer experience is an area that you're interested in, because you, like me, believe that actually it will add to your bottom line, then his book is a fantastic read. But a key part of this book is rule number 10. Lee Cockrell talks about being your own Shakespeare. And what he means by this, and again, I think it's so useful for makers and creators because you physically have a hand in the production and the process. Lee talks about being your own Shakespeare. You write the script. If you've dreamt about this product and then you've spent so long making it and marketing it, you decide how that customer journey should be. You decide on all the interactions and all the different steps that the customer should take as they explore your product and your brand. It's a really beautiful idea. And again, I think this is something that makers and creators can really, truly leverage because you're already part of that script. So my top tips then for the journey. Work through your journey. And you know what? If you can sit down with a friend or a colleague, engage them, get their ideas, get them to test your website for you. And then look for new ways of working. If something isn't quite aligned with your brand values, change it. But ensure that you go back and you monitor that change and you adapt again if needs be. And then my second action is always a little bit controversial. Look at your competitors. And this isn't about copying what they do, but this is about taking learnings from the way they're doing it. Do they spark new ideas? Is there a fresh way of looking at something? And again, maybe that's not competitors in your category. Maybe it's something way out there. Is there something in the healthcare industry or the electronics business that you could look at to leverage for your business? It's always really useful to look at other people's journeys. How are they interacting? And how could you use that so you can interact with your consumer in the best possible way? The third and final part of this afternoon then is looking at standing out from the crowd. For customer experience to be emotional and for it to be authentic, we want to ensure that you stand out for your product-based business away from everyone else in your category. And this is also about keeping the customer coming back. We know that consumers that are loyal, that understand the journey you're on, that understand the making process that you have, will buy from you again and again. And surely for you, it's more useful when a customer isn't constantly a new customer that you're having to warm up and excite and delight, but rather a customer that knows you, that knows and enjoys the processes you have, that keeps coming back and buying from you again and again. And we know, as research tells us, that these are the consumers that bring their friends and bring their families with them. And suddenly you have a whole pool of people ready to buy from you. So to look at this in a different way, and this tends to be the idea that grabs the most attention. This is where people really start to believe in the power of the customer experience because we flip it. If we sit and take a moment and look at why customers leave you, you might begin to understand just how important the emotional connection and the customer experience is. So 1% of consumers die. We know that, it's a fact. 3% leave the market. So they move away, they move out of the area, or they move abroad, or they're no longer in the market for the item that you sell. 5% of people get their friend to provide the service. So if I look at the hairdressers and the barbers being closed during lockdown, I started to cut my husband's hair. We got one of those shears and a pair of hairdressing scissors, and I did an awful job. But I did that every 6 weeks for the last 18 months, and I'm still doing it, I hate to say. I don't think I'm doing a great job, but if he's happy, then I'll keep doing it. However, it obviously means then his barber is missing out. So he's in this 5% that gets the friends or family to provide the service for them. 9% of your customers leave because these are the guys that are persuaded to go to the competition. But if you look at that figure, 9% is tiny. I think we all feel that so many of our consumers are dragged kicking and screaming away from us by the competition. But it's just not true. It's such a small amount that are persuaded to go to the competition. So actually it still leaves this massive pool of people that are willing to buy from us, but we just don't see them or hear them or understand them. 14% of customers leave because they're actually dissatisfied with the service. These are the people that step 7 in your journey would solve. If you can create the right after-sales service, if you can have super resolutions that are timely, that work for the customer, that proves you've listened to them and heard them and understood them, you wouldn't lose this 14%. The dissatisfied people are actually really, really easy to take hold of and keep there if we just work a little harder. But the biggest amount of consumers, the ones that leave us in their droves, is quite shocking. And these are people that actually are so easy to keep. That's why this is so frustrating. That's why this slide is the one that always catches people's attention. So 68% of consumers leave us because they believe we don't care. These are the customers that we've lost along the way. We haven't engaged properly. We haven't seen their problems. We haven't heard their issues. We don't fully understand what they want. And therefore we haven't matched our product to it. 68% of customers is a huge amount, but yet it's something so simple. By being authentic, by understanding the customer journey, and by trying to deliver a true customer experience, we could keep all these customers and their money. So that's massive. So if anything from today, that's the key takeaway. 68% of consumers believe we don't care, and then they stop spending with us. So to flip that back then, when we look at keeping customers, it's really simple. It's about being enthusiastic, even if we're having a bad day. Be enthusiastic about what you sell and ensure those around us, whether that's in our retail store or in our studio or the team that help us run our online platform, are exactly the same. It's engaging, even when we're exhausted in the run up to Christmas, that we video what we're doing, what we're making, what we're packing. Engage. And don't throw out random acts of engagement and networking. Keep it up. So if anything, write that strategy, have a note in your diary, put an alarm on your phone, keep it going. Listen. Regardless of whether a customer is praising you or actually has an issue, Really try and effectively listen to what they're saying. So many learnings, as I've said before, come from the research and the data that our customers give us. Number 4 is easy. Give them what they want. If all your customers are asking for a pair of earrings in a blue and you've never made blue, go for it. So many of the key things that we sell, our hero products, are driven by what the consumer wants. So if you keep listening and you keep engaging, you'll get an understanding of maybe what your next product could be. And then they'll be delighted with you and they will keep coming back. Show that you're truthful and that you're trustworthy, that you do everything you do with integrity and with pride. This is another key reason after COVID that consumers want to buy Irish. They want to buy local. They believe in what you're doing. This should be a really easy point of interaction to keep customers. And finally then, step forward with the best offerings out there. This is how you differentiate yourself from your competition. So key points to remember: new customers actually cost you a lot more than keeping your existing ones. When you keep your existing customers, not only do they come back more often, but they spend more each time. Feature your fans and your customers and take their advice. So be regramming the pictures that they're sharing with you. Share the reviews and the recommendations. And also, if you start to notice a pattern that all your customers are saying a certain thing, maybe that you're using too much packaging, maybe that they don't like the plastic tape that you're using, take their advice and take action. And then get ahead of your competition. This is a really simple one. It's about taking a leap of faith, listening to your customers, and then acting on it. So when I talk about getting ahead with your customers, when we look at the customer experience, it could be as simple as we see here. So these images are taken from the DCCI website, and it's about inviting consumers, when rules allow, into your workshop. Let them see what you're doing. Help and support them make a tiny part of what you do. If we grow engagement, if we deliver this memorable customer experience, I guarantee you people will take photos which will be shared. They'll tell their friends and family. And suddenly, and most importantly, they believe and understand what you're doing. The other aspect about keeping ahead could be using your website in a different way. So could you use a brand like Orb Media to actually build and deliver a virtual reality of what you're making? So that you see here, there are bags, there are shoes. These are real life products that they've actually taken to do a 360 walk around in a studio here. So the consumer, when they're on your website, looks like they can touch and feel these things and really understand the structure and the color and what it would be like for them. My final point when it comes to getting ahead, beating the competition, as to ensure that your experiences are superior. They need to be so much better than everyone else's. And actually, it's quite simple to do. What does your unboxing experience look like this Christmas? Does it create a wow magical effect? And again, that's not about the bells and the ribbons and things that can't be recycled or aren't sustainable. But have you truly thought about it? Is there a nice handwritten message going into each and every package? Have you carefully wrapped the items? Even if it's in a small padded envelope, has their thought gone into each and every package? Is it really talking about your brand values and who you are? Again, the point of the unboxing experience is to wow and delight and thrill the customer. But also you'd kind of hope that they might take a photo and share it on their social media so that you can do the same. So as we said, we want plenty of shareable moments to really excel at the customer experience, whether that's in your store, whether that's in your studio. What are the touch points like? How good is it to be able to share with each other's the moments we've had, the experience, the things we bought? So are these moments sellable? Are you creating little pockets along the journey that make the customer want to buy? Remember, the goal of customer experience is to make people feel good, is to have an emotional connection, but so that they buy from you. And that once they bought the first time, they've been so impressed that they keep coming back. So finally then, my last actions for you today is brainstorm. What can you do to drive loyalty? How can you deliver an exceptional customer experience that's better than your competition? So how can you deliver trust? How can you show that you're truly reliable? How good is your branding? Does it really speak to who you are and your identity? Does your marketing across all your digital channels build on that engagement? Does it have a wow factor? And then are you delivering true value? And again, this isn't just about price, it's about delivering a quality message for the price that you're giving. Finally, then the big one, we have all these consumers. Can we leverage them to bring others with them? Can they refer other people to you? So be that through spoken word, be it a video recommendation, or even through a 5-star review, how can you share and encourage your consumers to bring others with them next time? So finally then, to sum up, let's go back to what we said at the start. What do we know? That customer experience is defined as how a customer feels at every single interaction with a company. It's the journey, the emotional connected journey that they are on. Customer service, however, starts when the customer experience fails. This is the advice or assistance that's given. And ideally, this is you being ready with a resolution when things go wrong. But the big takeaway from today is that this is all truly worth it, because 67% of consumers say they would pay more to deliver a good customer experience. So that's me for this afternoon. And as you can tell, I'm truly, truly passionate about the area of customer experience and the area of retail and makers and creators. So if you have any questions after watching this today, or you have any ideas, or you'd like further clarity, feel free to get in touch with me. Melissa Moore, the Retail Advisor. You can find me on my website, you can email me there, or you can catch me on any of the platforms. Please feel free to DM me, drop me a line about what you've thought about today's presentation, or come back to me with any questions or queries you may have. Thanks so much for this afternoon. I hope you've enjoyed it.